The regime's founder is quoted in the Doctrine's anti-Semitic manifesto saying,
"Issue orders to kill every Jew in the country."
He was asked,
"What is the best deed?"
by one of his devotees, and the dictator replied,
"To believe in me and our doctrine." "What is the next best deed?"
the devotee queried.
"To fight on behalf of our cause,"
he answered. At the end of one such conflict, one of the regime's lieutenants told his commander,
"We have conquered another nation. The captives and the booty have been collected. Now, my leader, may I take a slave girl from among the prisoners?" "Take anyone you like,"
the warlord replied, raping one himself. Ever mindful of his duty, the regime's leader proclaimed,
"Embrace our doctrine first and then fight,"
followed by,
"I have been made victorious with terror."
You have stumbled upon the constitution of the world's largest nation. And it's not China or Russia. You've just heard the words of its founding father, and he's not Lenin or Mayo or Hitler. And today, this doctrine's adherents are doing what their founder and constitution ordered: fighting, ravaging civilians, stealing the world's possessions, and using them to terrorize. Since it's happening according to plan, shouldn't we muster the courage to expose it, to speak out against it? Or should we remain silent for fear of offending them? The answer is obvious. Or is it? What if the names I substituted were Allah, and Muhammad, and Islam? What if it's a religion? This Constitution is the Quran, and the manifesto is the Islamic Hadith. The citizens of this nation are Muslims. They're doing what they were ordered to do. They left their homes to fight infidels. They stole our planes, ravaged our economy, slaughtered innocents in the name of Allah. They even confessed to the crime. Yet not a single national spokesperson or politician has had the courage to hold Islam accountable. Criticizing a religion is something that makes people squeamish, especially in the paranoid culture of political correctness. Christians say that we are to love, not judge. Jews, after millennia of persecution, are terrified of even the perception of intolerance. Secular humanists, in deference to multiculturalism and the peace process, have sacrificed truth on the altar of their political agenda. So why upset everyone? Why? Because they will continue to kill us if we don't expose them. But before revealing what the Quran and Hadith have to say about Muhammad and Islam, I'd like to clear up a few inevitable misconceptions. First, on Muslims. I love you in spite of your beliefs and your deeds. I would like nothing more than to free you from Islam. I agree with Renan, the famous scholar, who, after dedicating himself to understanding Islamic scripture, wrote, and I quote, "Muslims were the first victims of Islam. Many times I have observed in my travels that fanaticism comes from a small number of dangerous men who maintain others in the practice of this religion by terror. To liberate the Muslim from his religion is the best service that one can render to him." Unquote. Second, on Christians. We are responsible for the awful mess the world is in. We have turned a personal relationship with our Creator into an emasculated religion, confused and aimless. In the name of that religion, we have perpetrated inhumanities. Today, for fear of appearing hateful, we are apparently willing to let 1 billion people live in virtual slavery, perishing in ignorance and poverty. Tolerance of evil is not a Christian virtue. We are called to be discerning. Third, on Jews. I love you in spite of yourselves. 14 centuries ago, your forefathers sold Bible stories to Muhammad and then mocked him when he goofed them up. So by doing so, you manufactured your own enemy. Now you are a divided people, unsure of whether to appease or fight the terror you helped inspire. As the world's most lettered people, I fear you understand less than you know. I pray that you come to trust your God before it is too late. Fourth, on secular humanists, liberals, and agnostics, you are guilty of the very things you denounce in others. History is as condemning of man separating himself from God as it is of man-made religions establishing themselves as the intermediaries to God. The last 100 years have been especially indicting. Atheistic doctrines have annihilated more people than all religions combined. Truth is not relative, yet in today's media, secular humanists judiciously edit under the guise of enlightenment. While irritating, this practice is practically as lethal as it relates to Islam. The errant recasting of the religion as peaceful, the reshaping of jihad into a spiritual struggle, the impression you convey that Islam is tolerant and that the terrorists have corrupted their religion is wrong. Thousands have died in the wake of your illusions. Fifth, on Islam itself. Without deceit and sword, Islam would have been stillborn. An infinitesimal fraction of the 1 billion people subservient to Islam today actually chose their fate. In Mecca, 1,400 years ago, after a decade of preaching, as few as 50 men chose to follow Muhammad. But that all changed in Medina. There, according to the Quran and Hadith, Muhammad became a political tyrant, a terrorist, and a thief. His willingness to lead 75 armed raids against defenseless civilians swelled his ranks as swiftly as the spoils of war filled his pockets. Equipped with booty stolen from others, Muhammad and his followers conquered and then plundered their neighbors, starting with Arabia. The only choice they offered their victims was your money or your life. Once subjected to their will, Muslims compelled submission under penalty of death. Islam is and always has been a doctrine devoid of choice. It prospers as the business end of a bloody sword. Soon you will see why. The vast preponderance of today's Muslims do not know their prophet or their religion very well. Theirs is a life of ignorance, despair, tyranny, and mind-numbing ritual. They are kept in the dark, purposely deceived, for the benefit of cleric and king. There is no incentive for them to learn. Exposed to the truth, they would reject Islam, a decision that could cost them their lives. The Quran itself confirms this startling reality. In the 5th surah, the final revelation chronologically, Allah ordered Muslims, quote, not to question the Quran. For those who did, he said, would, quote, discard their religion, unquote. In that light, we should feel good about freeing Muslims from the oppressiveness of Islam, for by freeing them, we will free ourselves from the scourge of Islamic terror. Despite what you've heard in the media, there is but one Islam, a singular, correct view of Muhammad, Allah, and jihad. It is the one printed in the Quran and the Hadith. There is no independent record of Muhammad in history from which a variant view may be drawn. The Hadith and the Quran are the sole repository of information on this man, his times, means, and mission. The Muhammad of Islam, the God of Islam, and the religion of Islam must be as these sources present them. Lastly, Islam has no alibi, no reason to cry, unfair. The Quran condemns all non-Muslims, Christians and Jews, as well as those who worship many gods and no gods. It is an equal opportunity hater. Its attitude towards unbelieving infidels is overwhelmingly hostile. A cursory reading of the first 10 surahs is sufficient to prove that the relatively few nice verses were contradicted and replaced, abrogated in Muslim parlance, by a staggering number of nasty ones. In fact, the Quran was written to justify some of the most ungodly behavior the world has ever known.